What's up, y'all? My name is Carissa. Welcome to this video. If you are here and you have pressed play on the video, the title must have interested you. Talking about all about today, changing your family tree. Is changing your family tree even something that you can do? Is it worth it? What does it even mean? This is something that is very important to me, very impactful in my life, something that I've thought a lot about. And so I just decided I wanted to sit down and talk about my experience, what changing my family tree means to me, in hopes that if there's somebody else out there who is in the same scenario and wants to change their family tree, this would be helpful. So to start, I just kind of want to start by telling a little bit of my story. So when I was growing up, I was raised by my grandparents. I lived with my grandparents from the time that I was born until I was 14. And the reason why I lived with my grandparents is because my biological mother was addicted to drugs and didn't know who my biological dad is. I still don't know who my biological dad is. And so I lived with my grandparents. They raised me and my biological sister until I was 14. Why that's important is because here we are. We're already not starting off strong when it comes to the family tree. My biological mom was in and out of my life from the time that I was born until I was 7. She would pop in and out, and we would do like what we called sleepovers with her. And so she would be there for however long she wanted. Sometimes it was a couple days, sometimes it was a week, sometimes it was only a few hours. She would just kind of pop in and out as she wanted. The first time that I remember thinking to myself, like, this is not who I want to be. This is something that I want to change about my family tree, or like, I don't want to be this way when I become a mom. I was 7 years old, so it had been a year since I had seen my biological mother. And I remember it was the summertime, being outside on my bicycle, riding my bike through the yard. And even though I was really young, like, you don't really have a concept of like, or at least I don't think I did, I really had a concept of like time and seasons and like dates, like what year it was and that kind of thing. But I remember like being on my bicycle and realizing that like it was warm outside. And so the last time I had seen my biological mom, it was also warm outside. And in my head, I was like, wow, like if we have gone through like all the seasons, it must have been a really long time since I've seen my biological mom. And then something in me like just hit me. And I remember thinking like, this is the longest that it's been since I've seen her. And she's not here. She's not coming back. And that realization, for whatever reason, of me thinking like, oh, she's not coming back, like that realization hit me. And it was in that moment on my bicycle that I remember thinking like, I will not do this to my children one day. Even that young, I was very adamant, like, this will not be my life, and I will not raise my children that way. And that was the first time that I remember promising to myself and like declaring to myself that I was not going to live the same life that my biological mother had lived. And while my grandparents were doing the best that they could, like, living with them was still really hard. Like, we weren't like super poor by any means, but I just remember my grandmother always talking about how like we didn't have enough money for things. Like, we didn't have enough money for me to do gymnastics. We didn't have enough money for me to learn to play the piano. Like, we didn't have enough money to go on vacation. Like, even though we did do some vacations growing up, like, I just always remember her talking about like us not having enough money to like do anything. And I remember saying in myself, like, even as a young girl, like maybe 10 or 11, being like, I do not want to live that life. Like, I do not want to live the life where like we just don't have enough money to do like anything. And I know that like stuff is not obviously like what makes a good life, but like I just remember wanting to have options and not have to like hear my grandparents fight and argue about money all the time, because they would fight and argue over the things that we needed because we didn't have enough money for things. And so that cued my YouTube finance era. We had a desktop computer with some dial-up internet. And this is where I, like, in the year like 2011, 2012, got on the internet and just started watching like finance YouTube videos, like Dave Ramsey and like just everything. And I mean, shout out to Dave Ramsey, honestly, because he talks in his stuff a lot about like changing your family tree. And he was one of the first like voices that I really heard affirm in me, like, you can change your family tree. Because he tells people that all the time, like, you can do this and you can change your family tree. And so all along my childhood and all along the way, changing my life and changing my family tree is something that was present and was a theme, like a constant running theme. And so fast forward a few years, I started college at 16, graduated college at 20, was the first person in my family to get a college degree. Nobody in my family that I knew of had a college degree. I was working several jobs. I was working a lot. Fast forward after college, I got my first corporate job. I had some student loans. I had a car loan. I had some student loans coming out of that. A couple of years after I got my corporate job, I got out of debt. So I paid off all of my debt. Was, very into like budgeting and financing. Health is also, or not financing, but really into like budgeting and saving, and cooking at home, those kinds of things, like paying for stuff in cash, like really into that, to set myself up for a good financial future. And then health and emotional and physical health is another avenue that I thought, like, this is not the life that I want. My grandparents were, again, like, doing the best that they could, but were not very healthy people. And so, like, physically or emotionally, like, they were not very healthy people. Like, when I look back, I know that my grandmother, like, struggled with a lot of, like, mental health issues. Like, she struggled a lot with anxiety, and she, like, self-medicated because of that. And so physical and mental health is also like another area where I have had to work really hard to change my family tree, because I don't want, my kids one day, if I get to have kids, like, Lord willing, like, I don't want my kids to grow up with like an unhealthy, grumpy mom, an unhealthy mom who like can't play with her kids and like, is unhappy and unhealthy and is grumpy, and like, no one's gonna be perfect, obviously. And I know that my grandmother was older to be raising kids, and that was a part of it, but still, like, taking care of myself and being healthy is something that was really important to me in regards to like changing my family tree as well. And so, like, I tell that whole story and I say all of that to say, because as I got like into my mid-20s, it started to really wear on me that like I hadn't like changed my family tree yet. Like, I thought that I would feel like I had done it. Like, I had accomplished my life's purpose, which was to be different from where I came from and to live a different life. It started to wear on me that like I had not done that yet, that I had not bought the house yet, that I had not gotten married and had a healthy marriage and had children yet and become a mom. Like, that it started to wear on me that like, would this ever happen? And like, is this something that I'm actually going to be able to do? Because like, what if I never get married? What if I never have kids? What if I'm never able to buy a house? Like, just all of these fears started to come up around, I think, a lot of common fears that people in their 20s have, like, or in their mid-20s. Like, if you haven't gotten married and you haven't bought a house yet, if you're not in a relationship, you don't have a partner, like, those fears can start to come up. And I think that's normal for your mid-20s. But mine, I felt like, came with that extra weight, because I was like, if I don't get these things and I don't have these things, then I'm not going to change my family tree. And like, then what's the point in anything I've ever done and everything that I've done up until this point if I don't get these things and I can't actually say that I've done it, that I've changed my family tree? And then it hit me that changing your family tree doesn't actually happen when you've quote unquote made it. Changing your family tree doesn't happen when you get married, or when you have kids, or when your kids are grown and they're in college, or when you buy the house, or when you get the big bank account. Changing your family tree doesn't actually happen then. Changing your family tree happens the moment that you decide you're going to do it. The moment that I decided at 7 years old on that bicycle that I was not going to be like my mother, that I was not going to follow in her footsteps, and that I was going to stay sober and stay away from drugs, that I was going to stay away from drugs, that I was going to raise my kids, that was the moment that my family tree changed. The moment that I got on YouTube and said, I'm going to learn about money, so that way when I grow up and I have a household, I don't have to struggle with money, and I don't have to worry about my finances, and I'm going to make sure that I'm stewarding my money well, and that I'm doing the best that I can to be wise and save. The moment that I decided that I was going to learn that information, that is when my family tree changed. The moment that you decide, no more, it ran in my family until it ran into me, is actually the moment that your family tree changes. The moment that you decide that you don't want to be like your angry dad anymore, that you're not going to struggle with anger, that's the moment that you've changed your family tree. And I hear so many people in my life say that. They say, like, I just don't want to be like my family. Like, I just don't want to be dysfunctional like they are. I just don't want to be angry like my dad. I just don't want to be critical like my mother. And that is their goal. Like, the only goal that they have is to just not be like their family, to just not be like their mom, like their dad, to just not be broke, to just not be overweight. Like, that's the only goal. And I want to tell them, like, you're already not like that simply because you said you're not going to be that way. Like, you've already change that part of your life, and now everything after that gets to be about creating who you do want to be, and gets to be about actually bringing all of those decisions to fruition. Like, you've already done the hardest part, which is to decide that you're not going to be like everything that you've seen, and you're not going to be like where you've come from. That's already the hardest part. The hardest work has been done. Now you can shift your energy from, I don't want to be this, I just know that I don't want to be this. You can shift your focus from this, what you don't want to be, into who you do want to be. And you can still run after all of those things that you want in your life. You can still want to be married and want to have a great marriage and want to be a great parent and want to have financial freedom and financial stability and want to buy a house and want to be able to provide, that life for your kids and have healthy relationships and have a healthy body, and whatever the thing is for you, you can still run after all of those things, and you can still want those things in your life, but you don't have to want them with the weight that if it doesn't happen, then you'll never have changed your family tree. You'll never have succeeded in what you want. And so I think that making the decision that you are no longer going to be that, you are going to forge a different path for yourself, like, that's step number one, and the work is done in that moment. And then step number two, and for the rest of your life, gets to be in celebration that you have done the hardest part, which is to decide that you're going to do something new. And then you get to have fun creating and building the life that you want. And deciding who you want to be moving forward and putting your focus and your energy towards that. And so my biggest piece of advice for somebody would be to find people in your life that are models that you want to follow. It's so easy to look at your family and say, like, I just don't want to be that. But that doesn't help you moving forward. Like, in reality, saying that you don't want that just eliminates what you don't want, but it doesn't give you a vision of what you do want. So I would find people in your community that, like, find someone in your life that you really admire that has what you want, and then go ask them to mentor you. Go ask them questions about how they became who they are, and start to emulate the things that you like about them, because the rest of your life is going to be about building who you want to be and building the life that you want and creating your new path in your new life. So that, to me, is what changing your family tree is all about. I hope that if you made it to the end of this video that was helpful for you. Hopefully that encouraged you. If you have more questions about how to change your family tree, or this is something that you want to talk about, like leave it in the comments below. I would love to hear your questions. Again, like I don't know everything, but this is my experience. This is the life that I've lived, and I have overcome a lot of things in a short period of time in my life, and I'm still working towards a lot of things in my life that I want, and to continue to do that work and change my family tree. But I hope that this was helpful for you. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.